All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, Brian. Welcome to the MeterX community. Thank you for taking the time to do this. You guys on YouTube, again, you can always check out the whole stream. Head on over to MeterX for a free month membership. I'm all fired up this morning about Qantas Airlines. I don't know if you've been seeing any of that in the news lately. So, they're talking about a mandatory vaccine for flying internationally. And and I'll just say I'm not anti-vaccine. I've had vaccines. My children have had vaccines. I have an autistic child. I'm still not anti-vaccine. I am anti, freedom of choice. And this is where I think, we have to sort of push back on this stuff. I mean, the thing is, if you're going to mandate a vaccine for everybody that flies internationally, I guess the point is that so you isolate and prevent or increase the odds, perhaps, if we, depending on how efficacious this is, preventing a spread of, whatever virus. And this is not going to be the first and the last time this happens. It's going to be over and over again. We know this virus, like many other coronavirus, will mutate and change year to year to year. You're going to have to constantly maybe have vaccine after vaccine after vaccine. And we also know that the testing is almost always done in these healthy populations. We know that people that are obese, we know that people that are older, we know that people that are metabolically challenged with diabetes and other metabolic disorders, the efficacy drops down significantly. And so are you going to now tell these people, hey, if you're old, you can't fly. If you're obese, you can't fly. If you're metabolically unhealthy, you can't fly. I mean, where do we draw the line at? If the outcome, if the ends justifies the means, where do you draw a line? You use common sense in this stuff. Anyway, so some people have been sort of upset that I commented back that and said F Qantas. And I think this is the thing. If we sorry to be on a soapbox here, Brian, at the middle of this interview, but if we as a hopefully free society want to protect and preserve some degree, I mean, we took off our shoes at the airport. We've agreed to all this stuff. We wear masks around to go in a grocery store. Where do we draw the line? Where do we say, hey, look, enough is enough? And I think that for me, and again, I'll say, I think it's fine that some people take a vaccine, and whether I do or not, I haven't made up that mind. I know I'd like to see the results, play out a little bit longer before I line up to be the first one in line. It's better to be an early adopter. There's often problems with that, but anyway.
I'm there with you. No, I'm there with you because I think you have to look at the bigger picture. Some people say, "Oh, it's just a mask, or it's just this, and then what happens down the road, right? You just keep going, you keep going. So I'm fine. I'm going to Africa soon to film for Food Lies, and I think I need some kind of vaccine. I don't really care that much. Although my film producer, director guy got some vaccine and said he didn't feel great for the last few days, and he has these headaches and. It's just, I don't remember which one he got, but it's the bigger picture that we should be worried about.
Well, I mean, they like to use the yellow fever argument. If you go into certain areas of the world, which yellow fever is endemic, and we have to realize that what is the pathogenicity, or, how lethal or how moribund is yellow fever versus, say, this virus, the coronavirus, which for the vast majority of the people is minimal, is very mild. I mean, yes, there are people that have died. But we look at, where is the endemic area in the world for coronavirus? Well, right now, currently, it's pretty much the whole world. And so you're going to say that this is like saying, the flu or, another thing that's around most of the world, most of the year. Are we going to start, requiring these types of things for that? I think that is problematic, to say the least, and it's just kind of like, we know these flu viruses mutate every single year. I mean, the efficacy is 60%, 50%, 30%, depending on year to year. Is it worth giving up the freedoms for that? And I think people should be allowed to choose freely. My suspicion is in the U.S. I mean, and again, other countries maybe do. Well, maybe it's going to change. Maybe it'll be mandated. But I mean, my suspicion is it'll be. Like when I was working in the hospital as a surgeon, I had to get a flu vaccine every year, and I did. I was like, okay, whatever, no big deal. There were nurses that would refuse, and they'd be forced to wear a mask around the entire flu season, which I thought was totally silly. I thought, give these people a choice. Is this ridiculous? But this has become, where we mandate it to travel, and you don't want to stop there. So I think it is critically important to let Qantas and any other company that stands up and starts using this language to say, no, we're not going to support you. We're going to boycott you. We're not going to utilize your services, to let them know, because if you let one get away with it, then they all do it. And then it doesn't stop at the airline. Then it's the grocery store. And then it's your place of employment. And then it's, whatever. And so all of a sudden we have this, show me your papers, show me your papers. And, the people that enforce this, the police, the whatever, whoever the TSA, the whatever people that do this, they become the equivalent of people that are, acting out these suppression of freedoms. And, you can, not to use this Nazi comparison, but I mean, most of the people in the Nazi regime, the jackbooted guys, were just following orders. And you get this, well, I was just following orders type of thing. And when do we draw the line? It's crazy. Anyway, sorry, enough of the rambling here. Food lies. Well, tell me, Brian, give us some background. Tell us about, I know you.
Yeah.
Talk about
your background. You know what? I'll tell the food lies background first. You were the first interview. I want to just say, I caught you before Joe Rogan, before you were cool, before you got in the big leagues. I was there. You came into LA and we filmed the first interview for Food Lies. And that was 3 years ago. I remember it. It was December. It was around December 7th, somewhere around there, 2017. So that's when I started making this film. It's been a long journey. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I've had a lot of new ideas. And I think this film's going to be really amazing because it's taken so long. Well, actually, Game Changers took 5 years to make. And, maybe because so many people are dropping out because it was, they realized how bad it was to be vegan. But I think this is how long films take. So people are wondering when it's going to come out. I think it's going to be this summer. We still have to film in Africa, which is happening in January. We're going to go visit the Maasai and live with the Maasai and the Hadza and a few other tribes. So this is a big life goal of mine and probably a lot of people listening, and think it's going to be really great for the film to really prove it. We're not just going to say, hey, look, we read this study and it said the Hadza do this or the Maasai do this. We're going to be there. We're going to be talking to them. We're going to be asking them, and we're going to see the difference in the modern ones, right? The modern people are moving into the cities, are moving into the processed foods, and they're getting terrible health conditions. And so we're going to show that disparity. And my quick background is, I started as a mechanical engineer. I, didn't care about health growing up. And I was in my 20s. I became 30 and my parents got sick and I lost both my parents around 30 years of age. So that's a wake up call. And I started making changes in my health because I was just getting a dad bod. I was doing that normal thing where even though I was athletic and active, I was still getting all these small ailments and conditions. And, I had like a size 32-inch jeans and now I wear size 28. So, I never counted calories. All I did was start eating mostly animal foods and everything kind of fell into place. So yeah, my story is I cleaned up my act. I got really into this and decided to make a film about it, and just have done all I do is research this, interview people, and do my podcast, Peak Human, and make the film, and that's what I do now.
Yeah, I kind of laugh when you say you're up to a 32. I mean, I never see a 32, man. I'm, like I said, I'm a different size body, but that's interesting. And you did some. I guess you tried to do a decathlon earlier this year, but let me just stick with the movie a little bit, because you have traveled. And I know you went to, I think, Japan it was, and I know you've traveled quite a bit around. So what sort of, if you don't mind giving us a little glimpse preview of what's in the film, where have you visited? What kind of things have you looked into?
So yeah, unofficially, I went to South America as well. I've done most of the filming in the US. I've had experts come in from all over the world, so I catch them when they're here. There's like Tim Noakes or Dr. Gary Fettke, that's Australia, South Africa. We went up to Canada, filmed with some great ranchers up there. But the film is trying to do a lot. It's not a carnivore film. It's not even a low carb film in a way, right? It's a, like, what is food film? It's trying to just demystify nutrition. It's so complicated in our modern society, right? It shouldn't be complicated, but it is, because it's so conflicting. right? There's one person that says, oh, you need to be vegan to be healthy. And then you're over here saying eat steak for breakfast. And that's really confusing to most people, right? Because most people don't know the ins and outs of nutrition and understand all the stuff that we kind of know in our community. And so they're lost. They try the wrong thing. And so the film is trying to just go through the whole history of humans and find out what we should eat, right? It's just answering the question, what should humans eat? And to do that, we need to start with our evolutionary past. So that's why we're going to Africa as part of that. This is where humans came from. What did we eat? Let's look at the stable isotope testing, and look at how carnivorous we were. Let's look the gut system and how it's changed, and the gut morphology, and our primate ancestors. We interviewed some great. There's a guy, Craig Stanford at USC, who's kind of Jane Goodall's protege, and he talks about these are ancient ancestors. These chimps were eating meat. They were hunting, and they want meat themselves. And so we look at the history of humans, and then we move to where we went wrong, right? This whole agricultural revolution and kind of where we went wrong from there. And then we go through all the bad science that we've done. Then we go through the new science, right? There's all this new science that we're trying to expose that no one really cares about. The mainstream media doesn't care to talk about it. And so we let the audience know, hey, there's some great studies that have been done that prove, what we're talking about, that fat isn't bad and that meat isn't bad. And then we really try to make some recommendations too, because I don't like these health films that are, they're just like, oh, this is what happened, and then fat's okay, and that's it. I think people need to just understand diet better, and just why certain diets work, and why the vegan diet can produce weight loss for some people, right? It's pretty simple. I mean, if you're eating low quality foods, and if you're eating whole food vegan, maybe you probably will lose weight, right? But it's not a long-term diet. So we have to explain this to the layman, because people don't understand it, right? We're nutrition nerds. Everyone on this call is probably somewhat of a nutrition nerd, right? Most people, 95% of people, don't care at all, and they just eat. They're just like, well, I'm just going to eat, and I eat, and that's what I do. And they don't even understand anything beyond that.
Yeah, I would say most people don't really give much thought other than it tastes good and how much it costs. I mean, that's probably the major driving factors on most people's nutrition making decisions. I will take issue with the steak for breakfast, because I don't always just recommend a steak for breakfast. In fact, today I had 2 steaks for breakfast. So no, I'm just kidding on that. But let me ask you, I mean, because this filmmaking is you, I guess this is your first. I know you've put out some kind of shorter films
Smaller
and stuff like
yeah.
that, but it's a difficult process. It's long. Funding is difficult. I know we helped raise some money for this initially, and I mean, are you to a point where you're funded enough to finish the film and that sort of stuff? And then do you have, or is it too early to talk about distribution and that type of stuff, or where it's going to be released and that type of thing?
Yeah, we always need funding. I mean, this is all done by the crowd. We were on Indiegogo. The campaign is still open on Indiegogo. So yeah, foodlies.org. You can link over there. But yeah, it's all self-funded by the community or my own work and time and money, and my great producer, director guys, free time and money. But we had a couple guys step in that chipped in a bit more money, so we are okay to finish the film, but it is just, it's not like we have like $500,000 or $1 million, like, the Game Changers would have. So it just takes a while. Right. And my guy doesn't have endless time, but he's the best guy to make it. So those are kind of the hurdles when you make a small documentary. It's more about time, right? It just takes time. You can't just call up, 30 producers, editors, videographers, and get everything done in 4 months. It's just slow. So that's where we're at. And yeah, what was the second part?
Well, I think it was mostly just seeing if you were able to finish the film out, and then
and distribution. Well, yeah. So we're giving it to the backers. So the Indiegogo backers will get it first, and then I think we have a very good chance to get on Netflix. We have some good connections, and there's some good friends of ours that have gotten films on Netflix before. And I hear that the problem is they just rip you off. they're like the cool kid in town, and they'll just be like, hey, you spent 3.5 years and a couple $100,000. Here's 50 grand. Take it or leave it. So I'd rather just do that. I didn't do this for money. Obviously, that's the worst business plan ever, to make a documentary to try to make money. But the most people hopefully will see it if we get on Netflix. So it'll be on Netflix eventually.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like I said, if you make this film, you dedicate years of your life and X amount of money, and then no one sees it. I mean, that's got to be incredibly frustrating. Let's talk about some of the stuff outside of the film. I know, I think you still have, is it Sabian.org that you're still working with? And I know with Gary Sliffer rather. Is he still part of that, or are you guys still doing that?
Yeah. Dr. Gary. So Sabian.org is just the main company. What I've realized over my journey is that there's like sort of this unifying theory of nutrition, and there's a lot of good diets and good things going on out there, and we're just trying to make it simple and just say, hey, animal-based nutrition worlds, like this is the good thing to do. You can call it carnivore, you can do keto, you can do animal-based keto, you can do paleo, you can do animal-based paleo. All of these are good diets, and there's just sort of a spectrum that these go across. And what the real enemies are the sugar and the refined grains and the seed oils. And I mean, it's not super complicated other than that. We're just trying to get people to get enough animal nutrition in there. Maybe that's the fine detail, but other than just avoiding all the processed foods, you can do okay on a variety of diets. And so that's kind of what we're doing at Sapien.org, is just, I don't know, just putting out content and information about this concept, and just trying to bring the communities together too, right? Just, I mentioned, paleo, keto, carnivore, they're all great communities trying to do great things. And I think we're just all in the same realm, and we just want to group everyone together and get on the same team.
Yeah. What's the, talk about the Sapien diet, if you will, just because I mean, I know it's animal based, whole food based. I mean, I think there's people like maybe Bill Schindler and some of these other people that talk about, kind of an older diet, kind of a diet that humans have been doing for, arguably thousands of years.
Okay, sorry, I muted myself. There's a garbage truck right outside my window. Yeah, the Sapien diet is exactly that. It's kind of the combination of all good diets and what they have in common and what they leave out. And I think, like I kind of said, we want to group people together and try to just have one community and one front, right? Because we have so much work to do against the vegan propaganda, right? And if we can just get everyone on the same page and everyone can choose their version of their animal-based diet, then we'll be doing a lot better. So Sapien diet is that. It's animal-based, it's avoiding processed foods, and I mean, really, it's not much more complicated than that. Right? It's focused on, and we like to focus on protein. Not that you have to eat insanely high protein diet necessarily, but if you focus on protein for each meal, like that's the base of your meal, right? That people should be thinking, okay, what is my base? And a lot of people, the base is pasta or the base is the salad, and we're saying no, the base is the meat, and then you go from there. And it's embracing whole foods, it's embracing fat. And I think I like the just not eating all the time thing, right? It's most people just eat nonstop. And I like to see people eat when they're hungry or eat in a smaller window. And it sounds like you and other people in this community, they tend to eat, a couple meals a day. It's you eat, you feast and you fast 2 meals a day. I think the 2 meals a day thing is just what humans like just naturally want to do. I mean, if you're working out more and you need more food, maybe you do 3 meals, but 2 meals a day. If you want to fill yourself up, that's got to be 2 meals a day, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to depend. It's going to depend, but yeah, I mean, that seems to be a natural pattern. I think, I mean, as you go to visit with the Hadza and the Maasai, you know, granted they're living much different now, even today, than they did even 50 years ago. Because you know, I've seen where, you know, the Hadza are forced to hunt baboons now because much of their traditional animals have been decimated. They don't have the, you know, the large, you know, ruminant animals anymore. They don't have certainly the elephants and those things that they might have hunted, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But I think that even with, you know, with these nomadic or hunter gatherer type communities, it's very difficult to eat many meals a day. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, that's going to be my supposition, you know, particularly if you were nomadic. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, walking 20 miles a day and stopping to eat every 2 hours. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, it would have been, you know, what are we doing here? And you don't have the Tupperware jars and all the microwaves and all the crap that we have now. So it'll be interesting to see what you come up with. You know, I've been to Africa several times and had the, you know, the fortune to go see some of the Maasai and spend some time there. And it's definitely a very different culture and different world and different frame of reference and everything. I mean, it's like time of day, no one knows. You know, it's just, you know, what day it is, what time it is. No one knows. No one cares. It's just a different frame of focus, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful. I can't wait to see what happens out there. And I actually, back to Bill Schindler, this kind of reminded me of just, he goes around the world and studies these populations. So I think he really does fit in that Sapian framework of, what if we did eat other foods, if we did eat plant foods, what did we do to detoxify them? And that we know that they were the fallback foods. And, you know, just humans always did this. They always detoxified their food. They always had these practices around fermenting or doing other things. They knew they were bad for you in a way, right? It's humans kind of figure things out on their own. That's what I found too, is we were smart. Right? We always had the same brain since we became Homo sapiens. So we use that to manipulate our surroundings and acquire food and survive. And we use all our mental power for that. And we figured out a lot of things, especially, you know, Weston Price. I'm sure a lot of people bring up Weston Price, but he found that all these groups did the same thing. And these groups were all around the world, completely separate from each other, but came to the same practices of animal-based diets, especially around pregnancy and these traditions. And I've been getting into the pregnancy part a little bit more recently, where it's really interesting. Again, completely different population on different sides of the world, but they'll all have these traditions around pregnancy. And for one, eating organs and meat and just eggs and all kinds of stuff to make sure they get proper nutrition, but also not they space out their kids. They don't have them back to back because they kind of understood that your body is depleted of a lot of nutrients and you need to kind of build them back up. So all these societies had so much knowledge about food and we've lost it. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you know, it's kind of an interesting point because, you know, at some point someone had to figure out how to, you know, I just wonder, the first people came upon certain plant foods that said, can I eat this or not? Is it going to kill me? How do we, how do we discover, you know, what was, you know, with primitive technology, how not to kill ourselves with certain foods? I'm sure a lot of people, you know, a lot of people probably got sick or maybe some died in the process. You know, because a lot of people talk about, well, fruits, maybe plants like us to eat fruits and therefore they're harmless. But I mean, we've all heard about the poison berries, right? I mean, there's lots of berries, and a lot of berries, if they're not eaten at a certain time, they're very poisonous. So it's kind of interesting to see how that was, you know, I don't know. I assume you're going to have some translators that'll speak, you know, whatever language Hadza.
Yeah. Well, we have guides, and I think you might have Mary Ruddick on MeatRx. Mary is really great. She's going to be our guide for the guides. So Yeah, she's got it all set up. And yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot. And I think there's a lot of these people that, well, I'm curious about the fruits and the plant foods, and well, even what you think. Okay, I guess I'll ask you a question because I'm friends with Paul Saladino, and where you're at with this like fructose and honey thing and fruit. Now that we're on the topic of fruit, I see some thumbs down in the community. But just what where you're at with the fructose part and the
Well, I
honey
mean,
or the
yeah,
sugar.
I'll be happy to comment. I mean, again, I think much of it is going to be context and dosing dependent. Depending upon where you're at with your metabolic health, where you are with food addiction issues. Obviously, there's people that can tolerate some degree of fructose. I mean, it's clearly at a certain point fructose becomes hepatotoxic. I mean, we do see de novo lipogenesis occur. I mean, there's a recent study that came out looking at what is that threshold amount. Based on a few studies, maybe 1 gram per kilogram is of lean mass, is maybe the threshold point where what we didn't know was fructose is metabolized by the small intestine initially, and much of it is converted into glucose and some other compounds that we can utilize. But after it reaches a certain threshold amount, so let's say the average person might be able to ingest, say, 50, 60 grams of fructose and tolerate that pretty well. So what is that? What does that equal? That's going to be, a little more than a Coke and a half worth. Maybe it's 7 or 8 bananas. Maybe that's, 2 tablespoons of honey or something like that, or a little less, probably less than that with honey, because honey's 40% fructose. Fruit juices and Cokes tend to be about 65%. Obviously table sugar is 50%, with sucrose. And so the problem is the average American is eating far more than that in fructose. And so I think we're seeing some of these things play out for people. And like I said, there's other people that just do better without it in their life. And so I think we have to say, when I hear people saying it's mandatory, you have to do it, I push back on that. The same thing with organ meats. It's mandatory, you have to do it, because I see the opposite. Every single day, I see people thriving without those things. And so for people to say it's optimal, it's you're on the varsity team, you're not on the JV team, I think that's nonsense, quite honestly. And I'm going to push back against that until we can conclusively prove that. I mean, great. It's a great story. These hunter gatherers, they value the whole animal. They eat every part, their nose to tail. And I know you have a nose to tail thing, and I appreciate that. And I think that's a great story. And I think it's laudable that we do that. But to say that you must do it, it's a necessity. That tends to make the accessibility of this diet limiting for many people, because many people like saying, I really don't really want to eat brains. I really don't want to eat pancreas and thymus and lung and trachea extract and that stuff. And, and I don't want to eat raw meat, because there's some people advocate raw, you could eat raw. So when we start doing that, it really dissuades the people like Brett Lloyd, who maybe he's here today, who's thriving, lost, mental health disorders, just eating ground beef from friggin', Sam's Club and bacon. I mean, and he is, lost 80, 90, 100 pounds, lost his mental health disorders, is thriving. And those people would probably not do it if we just say, you got to do the X, Y, and Z. And so I'm going to push back against that stuff. It's not those
I'm
things
on the
are bad.
same page.
Yeah. Well, it's not that those things are bad. And I don't discourage anybody from experimenting and saying what works for you, what doesn't. And whether it's organ meats, whether it's fruit, whether it's honey, whether it's rice, whether it's birthday cake, I don't really care. We're going to support you just the same, but I think you just need to be objective about it. And I think, the secret to this is we don't know yet. For anybody to say there's a magic formula, I don't know it. And I think what helps is having a group of supportive people that can kind of come together and figure out what's working for each other, and having that support is probably more, like I said, I call that the main supplement is having support, because, this is a lonely road when you're out there and people are calling you a quack and people are calling you an idiot and people saying you're killing people and you're causing cancer and heart disease. And, you fly up against that all day long, every day. And at the same time, for me, I mean, I literally get messages every day, emails, direct messages, PMs, DMs, text, hey, Dr. Baker, I got rid of this disease and that disease and this disease, and my life is better. And just every day you're inundated with that. And then, everybody else is saying you're dangerous and killing people. It's kind of silliness, but, yeah, that's my take on that stuff. So like I said, I tend to be very undogmatic about it. I know there was a time when Paul was saying, you must eat this, and this, otherwise you're not optimal. Very, only eating raw and not letting a molecule of this or that cross his lips, and plants are evil and toxins. And now he's adjusted quite a bit. And that's what I want to say is, look, you don't know the answer. I don't know that I'm going to stay on a carnivore diet the rest of my life. And I don't know that anybody will. But I mean, I think we should be open to changing. But when you start out preaching dogmatically, it really disenfranchises a lot of people. And so we try to say, this is a general framework. Your mileage may vary. Here's some support, basically. So that's my approach.
Well, I love that approach, because I don't want to be on any teams. Like, once you join a camp, and then you're kind of stuck in that camp. And my camp is just animal foods are healthy and we should be eating a lot of them, and if I don't want to, I don't want to scare people away from things. I like that too. I know that's your message too, and I love Paul, but I want him to be more open. Or he goes, it's like, now it's just all seed oils and then everything else is fine. He's like kind of all over the place. And I don't want to talk bad about him at all. I love him. I'm telling you, I support him, but it's just, if we make these kind of blanket claims, then it doesn't service the community. Because even the guy, my company's nose to tail, but I don't say everyone needs to eat nose to tail. I don't say you have to eat organs. It does make it harder to do. It makes it more split up. It creates divides. And I love that we actually did a session on this with Mark Sisson and Paul in the studio over a year ago, and we had this kind of debate.
Yeah, I remember it was fun, and I think Mark fell a little bit more on the side of Paul. I mean, I still stand as the lone guy. I mean, I don't know if the lone guy, but I've been the most perhaps visible guy that says, no, you don't have to eat this way. You don't have, and again, I have done as much as probably anyone with regards to regenerative agriculture and trying to change the food system with promotion through podcasts and talks and this stuff. But at the same time, I'm saying, to just get healthy and no longer to be fat, sick, and diabetic and depressed, you don't necessarily need to do that stuff. And I think that's the difference. I've taken a lot of flack for that. I get people that call, it's, what is it? Carnivore, Cargill shield. I get no money from those guys. I mean, nice. I mean, I can tell you my life would be a lot easier. They got plenty of money, those guys do, but got not a cent, not a penny from those guys. And like I said, we're going to have Stefan Van Vliet on, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but he is doing, some of the more, work that needs to be done looking at food quality and does it have an impact on actual human health? Because that's what I'm saying. Where are the studies showing that, yes, you can say that, this way of raising animals creates a nutritional profile that's different than, say a CAFO type of thing. But where are the studies showing definitively that one has a better human outcome than the others? And people say, well, it's obvious and this and that. And to me, it's like, well, I'm not seeing that in the population. That's the problem. If it were obvious, then we would see a huge, dichotomy between the health outcomes from people that go to Walmart and buy their beef, or people go to the local rancher and buy that. And we're just not. And that's unfortunate. I wish it were that way. I wish it were just like, hey, because I want to support that way. And I do support that way of raising animals. But I think until we actually have clear proof that one way or the other, I don't like to make those claims. Even though from an environmental standpoint, all day long, I'll say, hey, do regenerative agriculture. From a sustainability standpoint, from, reducing the pesticides and the herbicides and the soil runoff and the soil destruction and all that stuff. I'm totally on board with that, until somebody starts saying, if you eat meat from the grocery store, it's equivalent to eating poison. I really push back on that, because it's not what I've seen. And even if there's a small difference, and I suspect it is going to be a small difference, for most people, that's enough. I mean, it's like, it's like telling people, you're not doing the basics. If you're not doing the basics, getting into these advanced, 1% issues. It's kind of minor. Like I said, if you're complaining about, grocery store meat and you're still eating Doritos and Oreos, then you got nothing to talk about. It's just kind of like, if you can't even get that part right, then you have no business talking about the rest of the stuff. And so I think that's where we have to kind of start in that position, and then kind of, then you can kind of go from there.
I'm 100% in agreement, and people are surprised because I have the grass-fed, grass-finished company. That's my whole thing. So people think that I should be doing the same thing and fear-mongering people and saying you have to eat my meat or nothing. I'm like, no, I don't care at all. I completely agree with you, and I don't want to be as bad as the vegans or be as bad as mainstream media and doctors, where they blame, they confound their things, right? So I agree with what you're saying. If you're eating grocery store beef, you're just fine. And that's 98% of it, right? Is that you're moving away from the processed foods. And so I think what some people do, the confounding part is they'll say, oh, but these people who eat, the grocery store beef, they're less healthy. Well, they're eating less good food, right? Their whole diet sucks. So of course they're going to be less healthy.
Well, I mean, they tend to be, quite honest, they just tend to not have as much access to. They're just not as wealthy. I mean, anytime you filter for organic, high expensive food versus cheaper food, you're gonna pit rich people versus poor people. Poor people are almost invariably going to have worse health outcomes. Not always, but I mean in general, particularly in developed countries where the poor people are fat, obese, diabetic, eating processed food. They're eating the day old donuts that are, whatever, a dozen for $1.50 or whatever it is. I mean, you go, I'll go to Smart and Final, which is a pretty kind of a discount grocery store down my street, and I'll pick up some stuff every once in a while. And, as I'm walking by the checkout aisle, you see all the, it's like the mandarin oranges in light syrup, and the fruit cocktail in heavy syrup, and the brown. I mean, it's all on the discount rack. This is what they're feeding. This is what the people can afford. And that's what you see. And that's what these people do. They come in, maybe they'll get a chubba beef, and they'll get this stuff. And you've got this big sort of confounded issue. And we know healthy user biases. I mean, I don't know if we need to talk about that in this community. Well, yeah. It's pretty well understood, but that's what we see.
Yeah. And I think it's the same for why we think processed meat. I mean, I'm not saying you should eat all processed meat, but we have that same confounding variables where people who eat more processed meat are eating more buns and the sodas and all that stuff. And I think that if you're getting just a simple stuff like a sausage that is, quote, processed, it's fine. I'm not for every single meal, because you want that fresh meat. You want that, some medium rare steak and getting all these extra nutrients. But I don't think people still think, even some people in the community that say, oh, but you can't eat processed meat, You can't eat processed meat. But I'm like, I mean, I know people who do great. We're actually including some of this in the film. Dr. Eric Westman, he uses Smart and Final, food stamps, whatever you have. Let's go to Walmart. Let's get some ground beef for a couple bucks, and you're fine. You are fine. And he tells a story about a woman in a wheelchair. I think she was in a wheelchair and was on food stamps and reversed her diabetes. Lost, how many dozens of pounds. And I mean, we just have to stop the fear mongering and just get people on board with this. And then maybe in, 5 years from now, when we've made some great strides, then we can get into the details and, let's get people more towards the regenerative ag. And obviously that's good. Like you said, just to support all the farmers. I mean, just to vote with your wallet. If you can do it, 100% support them.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a really great sentiment, and it's encouraging to see. We talked with who was it the other day? One of the ranch. Gabe Brown.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with Gabe, and he basically is in negotiation with what it sounded like one of these big meat packing companies, one of the four. Whether it's, I suspect it's either Cargill or Tyson, because they're U.S. based, as opposed to JBS and National Beef, which are Brazilian based. That they're starting to maybe buy in a little bit of the regenerative ag. I know, like Arby's, McDonald's, some of these companies are actually taking notice and actually supporting these regenerative agriculture folks. And I think that honestly, it is going to be market demand and consumer demand, voting with your wallet. I mean, we talk about voting. We just got to have had a presidential election, and some people feel the votes whether they count it or, I mean, it's a big mess. But regardless, I think the most powerful vote you have is your wallet at this point. I mean, this is what we have to, as a community, if we want to see things change a certain way, we have to direct the market. And, it's either positive or negative voting. It's either I'm going to stop buying that stuff. I'm not going to support you because I don't like what you're doing, or I'm going to support you and this is where my money is going to go. And I think this is what we need to do. And whether it's I'm going to stop buying processed food and just going to buy Walmart ground beef, that makes a difference. Or it could be I'm going to go to my local rancher and support you guys, and not buy all the other food. I mean, there's many ways to do this, but the shift and the market perception and getting out there and being verbal about this is going to really, I think, change things potentially. This is the best chance I think we have. Relying on the government, I'm not so hopeful about that.
No, and it's a journey. I think that's my message. I think it's a journey, and it took me years to get to where I'm at. Even just slowly cutting out processed foods more and more, and then moving down this ladder to getting to a all regenerative diet. That's like the end game. But people are on a journey. You can't expect people to go from the standard American diet to like going and talking to their farmer and getting, only that meat. So I just saw some comments pop up while you're talking, and, people like, pushing back a little on that. Oh, it's not that expensive to just get this, or yes, you do save a lot of money when you're not buying all the processed foods. But I'm just saying, let's get there. Let's allow people to go down this path and not say that you have to do it all in from day one, and that it is a slower sort of journey.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a journey, and I think we're all on that journey, and we're trying to figure out what to do. I know Steven Swick's in here making comments about the cost about regenerative ag, and yes, there are there are ways to, particularly if you've got a freezer and you've got a relationship, you can get a lot of those things at a cheaper price, provided you want to buy the whole cow or the whole side of beef, because Stephen Calicrate came on here talking about, we can't afford just to sell steaks. We gotta be able to sell the ground beef. We got to be able to sell the offcuts. We got to be able to sell the roasts. Mm-hmm. If we don't do that, we lose. It's not workable. So you've got to be able to willing to say, hey, I'm not just going to eat ribeyes and T-bones and New York strips and briskets, and there's so many good cuts, and picanhas and strip steaks or skirt steaks and flat irons and all that. There's a lot of good cuts out there, but you got to be able to do all those other things and to make it work. And so I think it requires an investment in your culinary skills. You got to get a damn sous vide device. I know you like to use that. Figure out how to cook things, and so you can make them palatable and stuff. When are you leaving for Africa?
I think January 13th. So we'll be gone for a couple weeks. We're actually going to hit the Smithsonian, the Museum of Natural History in DC, if they ever open. We've been talking to a great paleoanthropologist, Dr. Brianna Pobner, who I had on my show. And I think it'd be a great imagery, right, to interview an anthropologist that's actually looking at the history of meat eating. She had a great article called The History of Meat Eating or something like that. And so she's on our team. But, to have these big dinosaur skeletons and different, giant animals that we used to eat, like the megafauna and the, if she's talking about eating some elephants and some mammoth, and there's a big mammoth behind her, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, obviously we weren't eating dinosaurs, unless you count chickens as dinosaurs, as a remnants of dinosaurs. But yeah, I don't know if are you talking with Michael Richards from Max Planck? He's the guy that's done much of the isotopic data. Most of his major studies he was a primary author on, and I don't know where he resides. Maybe he's in Canada now. I can't remember, but anyway, it might be a good one to get if you can get an interview with him at some point. I don't know how hard he is to get to.
I'll try. Yeah.
What was I going to say about Africa? So will you be going, I guess, Tanzania, Kenya? Where are you heading to?
Well, Kenya's closed. So we were trying to go to Kenya, but the borders are closed. But luckily there are some Maasai in Tanzania, right? They're kind of like on that border of Kenya and Tanzania. So we're going to also spend some time with the chaga that I don't know much about. And I don't actually remember the other ones, but we'll be there for probably 16, 17 days. And yeah, just like really living the life. And we were going to I think it's called like a tribe of elders or elders meeting too. And I think that'd be really interesting to hear their tales, you know, and they've seen what's changed. And I'm sure they have some ideas on what we should and should not be eating.
Well, if they still, I was there, like I said, I was there in the early 90s was when I was in Tanzania, and I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and I did 50 push-ups at the top at nearly 20,000 feet. That was tough. I was breathing hard for about 2 hours afterwards. But and there are some Maasai kind of hanging out in that Ngorongoro Crater, Serengeti area that you can visit with. And what I didn't do at the time, and I don't know if I regret it or not, but you know, they have their blood and milk mixture. You know, they'll be, well, at least the ones I did, they carry it around in their little leather satchels, and they offered me some, and I respectfully said no thanks. It kind of just didn't sit. The congealed blood and the sort of sour milk mixture just did not seem all that appealing to me. But maybe you'll try it when you're there. See if
I'm
you can
going to
try
do it. Oh, I'll report back. I'm excited now that I know more. I mean, before I got into this world, I wouldn't have tried it, but now I'm interested. And yeah, I also realized I didn't finish talking about the film, just what we're doing here. I left off at getting to the modern science and making some actual diet recommendations. And then we definitely are going into the regenerative agriculture part. Right. So that is kind of the icing on the cake, where I love just debunking vegan misinformation, where all the puzzle pieces fit. And it's really simple when you look at the circle of life and how nature works. It's like, so why would this food be healthy for us, but then not also be part of a good environmental natural cycle?
Yeah. One thing that I think, and I had Jason Roundtree on the other day, he's another sort of science regenerative ag guy. And we talked about, a lot of these studies will talk about soil sequestration of carbon, and they'll talk about tons per hectare, and it's like, well, what does that mean? I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you tell me you've sequestered, 24 tons of carbon, I don't know what that really means, on 100 acres or whatever number they're going to use. So it really makes sense if you can sort of put that into equivalents of like automobile pollution, or like I said, can you put it in terms that the actual person could conceptualize? Because if you say, look, if I run 100 head of cattle on 100 acres or 200 acres or whatever it is, or 400 acres for 3 years regeneratively, I can equivalently take off 1,000 cars off the road or something like that. If we look at in the U.S., we have about 770 million acres of pasture land. That's what we have. And so what percentage of that would we have to offset? What are the opportunities, that type of thing? If we can kind of get that message out there and put it in a more palatable way for the average consumer to understand, because this, like I said, you have to hit people over the head with a hammer and say, look, dummy, it's this versus, because when you start getting really lost in the woods and saying, how many hectares and hectares or how many tons of carbon, and it's just confusing. No one knows what that means, so you have to put it in real terms. So hopefully you'll be able to do that.
Yeah, well, we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to best explain it to the audience, and we're using different tactics, whether it be visuals. Game Changers use some really gimmicky stuff that I did not care for, where they got the athletes and they did the thing with the erections at night, or they'll do the thing with the blood plasma. So the problem is it was effective, right? Because there's just a lot of people who don't think much about nutrition or don't know much, and they just buy into it. So what we're working on, why it's taking so long, is it's a creative process, is figuring out our versions of that aren't gimmicky and stupid, and let's let people visually see what's going on in the, so we're thinking of these visual tests. We're thinking of how to display information. And you're completely right. If we're just using some of these esoteric sort of calculations and figures and facts and stuff that people can't figure out, it doesn't help. And every minute is valuable in this film. And man, it was about to be a 3-hour film until we kind of had to reel it in, and we're trying to get it down to 2 hours. So I'll just say it's a lot different than other films out there. And I enjoyed the Sacred Cow film, and it was streaming. I think it's streaming again these days, but very different from that. I'm glad we're not all trying to make the same film. Vinnie Tortorich did one called Fat, right? There was Fat Fiction that a woman, Jennifer something did, and we're doing something different here. We're trying to do something special and go the extra mile and do these things like you're talking about, like find ways. And people can reach out to me if you have some good ideas, like, wow, this is the best study ever, or this is the best statistic, or show it this way. We could show it visually and, show the cows and do this. We'll yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing you should probably touch on, well, again, in my view, I mean, this is something that I see a lot of people out there saying, once they have lab grown meat, that's going to be the game changer. And I think it's very important, hopefully you understand, where the inputs come from for lab grown meat. It's GMO, monocrop, soybeans and peas, most likely. The fossil fuels required, the nutrients, the waste, all these things need to be understood, and how it doesn't help the land and how it only damages the soil. It's the same old thing. It's just like planting a bunch of soybeans. I mean, this is just an extra step in that, turning the soybeans into meat, but it's still that it's not doing what the cows are doing when they're managed correctly. And so hopefully that gets touched on, because there's so many people, even people that are like pro meat and anti-vegan will say, yeah, but I'm going to eat the lab grown meat because I still think it's the right thing to do. And I think we have to say there's a much better option, and this is where this regenerative grazing system kind of comes in play.
We got that in. That is definitely in there. And I've talked to all the great people you've talked to. We got Frank Mitloner and all these guys. And what I call it alchemy. This fake meat, or the cell-based meat, is alchemy, right? They're thinking they're going to make something out of nothing. They're going to make gold out of lead. And it's not possible. You can't, like, the environment or nature doesn't work like that. Right. I think that's an impossibility. That, like you said, there's so many inputs. When you're talking even about the refrigeration required to do all these big vats of fermented chambers or whatever the hell they think they're going to do, there's amounts of energy and nutrients and amino acids and fatty acids and all these things in meat. And I don't understand how they think they're going to create that out of nothing. I think it's alchemy.
Well, they don't think they're going to do it out of nothing, but they just don't tell you what they're creating it out of. They're going to tell you, we take a cell from the cow, and then they throw a little cartoon graphic showing you dropping and dropping and it magically growing, but they're not showing all the agriculture that goes into that, because cows can convert grass into protein, whereas these little lab grown things are going to convert soybeans into protein. And what do you want to have? Massive crops of soybeans or grass, which is going to be better for the environment? And I would argue it's going to be grass. And I think that's something that the average person doesn't understand, because they're so removed from the process. And I think that's an important aspect of this.
I guess you're saying, yes, the public might not know, but these companies, whether it's cell-based or plant-based fake meat, they're going to do a good job, I'm sure, of making it very hard to figure out where all the inputs are and minimizing all the inputs. But I'm just saying, from just a simple scientific perspective, you can't break the laws of nature, and it's the math can't work out. There's no free lunches in nature, as they say. Like, you can't just bypass all these systems.
Yeah, I mean, unless they figured out how to turn grass into, and replicate the cow's rumen, they won't be able to have the efficiency. I mean, even at 100% efficiency, they would have to turn 100% of the soybean protein into meat protein. And cows do better than that, because you've got grass in there. If you're going to look at, crops, I mean, cows are much better. There's like a, 0.6 to 1, 0.6 of food input to one full unit of protein output from the cow side. So it's, to get the average person to understand that, it might be a challenge, and that'd be something where a film could maybe hopefully do that.
Might have to be the second film. I mean, we're already trying to just put things in the second film bucket. What are these next topics? And cancer, Alzheimer's, this mental health, fake meats. I think all of these are going to have to be in a second film.
Well, hopefully you get to that point where you get to do one. That'll be good. If hopefully, obviously the first one has to be popular to be able to do a second one, I think. So that'll be interesting. So, all right, Brian. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's a question I had for you. You mentioned about processed meat and sausage and stuff like that. One of the things that I lament is if I go to the grocery store and try to find sausage, it's almost always got a bunch of crap in there. I mean, to be honest. And so, do you guys make a sausage at your company, the Nose to Tail? Is that something you guys make? And then, if so, what's in it?
Yeah. So it's nosetotatail.org, and we don't use any nitrates, don't use any curing agents or anything. I guess you have to use some curing agents. So the natural thing to do is use a little celery salt, right? So but yeah, it's just naturally smoked, and it's all, sustainable, non-GMO, don't use any grains. And yeah, I mean, we have sausage. Actually, I wanted to get you some of that. I never sent you any, some stuff. We have some new products too. We have biltong, and we have a hat. I got to get you the steak hat. It's just a hat. It's just a steak. I made these custom patches, and I designed this big T-bone and just put it on there. So I'll have to get you one of those and some meat.
Yeah, I'll be like I said, the biltong is something I miss from when I was a kid in South Africa, and it's just the way they make it. I've seen some of the commercial stuff here in the U.S., and it tends to be very thin and very lean, and it just doesn't have that same texture and flavor that I remember from getting when I was in Africa. So
I'm glad you say that, because we're not doing it like that. I teamed up with a great South African guy, and he does it right, and it's softer too. If people know jerky, it's like kind of dry, and so it's softer, and we do extra fat. So I made sure when I started working with him that we weren't gonna trim off all the fat, and we maxed it out. I think if any more fat, it might go bad too quickly, right? You kind of have that to take into consideration, but we're the only biltong people that do it with extra fat.
I think I remember when I was a kid, and this is when I was a kid, it was a long time ago, 50 some years ago or something like 45 years ago, in South Africa. And my grandmother would, I think, go to the butcher and actually get it. And then we would just eat it up right away. It was like one of those, like right as, it wasn't something you'd stick in the cabinet for 3 months, or in the gas station where it's been sitting on the shelf for 2 years or something like that. That's not how biltong is designed, in my guess. At least I'm not an expert, but I would assume it's
100%.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing we do. So I have all my shipping go out of his facility to make sure, and we only make 100 packs at a time, and then we send them out fresh.
All right. One last thing. Do you make Braunschweiger? And Brooke was asking about that.
Oh yeah, we have Braunschweiger. So that has a liver in it too. So yeah, if you want to get a little liver. And then we also have the primal beef too, where it has liver, heart, kidney, and spleen for people who aren't, so hot on eating all those organs. It's just mixed up in the meat, and it tastes great.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool, Brian. Well, tell us, we've come to an hour, so let's tell us where we can find you, social media, about the film, anything you want to put in there, so where people can help out or find you.
Yeah, Food Lies. Any social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, just go to Food Lies. I'm there. And Sabian.org has all the links to this. So yeah, if you can still get on the film, we have some, eat meat shirts and some other perks. And we're still trying to, self-fund this thing. So Food Lies.
All right, Brian, thanks again, and good luck to you. Looking forward to seeing the film when it comes out, and keep up the good work.
All right, you too, man.
All right, guys, everybody have a good day. We'll see some of you guys back tomorrow. Take care.